Yeah, so I'll just say.
Oh, we do this?
once you
We
start.
start with this?
Yeah, we gotta start with the cheers always. Cheers.
Clink.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2. We are your host, Graham McCarthy, co-founder and CTO of Soapbox. And as you know, this is Brendan McEachran, CEO and co-founder of Soapbox. This is the Metacontext.
Okay, let's jump into Monday metrics. So in this segment, we're going to take you all through what we just took our team through at our town hall. What our metrics were for the last week, what our thoughts are, what our concerns are, what the data is telling us, so that you're along for the ride. Share it all publicly. We've got some graphs, we'll load it up. And if you see something that we don't see, just let us know in the comments. We're in there checking it out. So this is what we share on our website, this number. If you go there this week, that's what you'll see. I mean, basically, this past week, I think like the headline story is we're up. We're not necessarily where we want to be, but I think the like bunny dip was a little bit, even though we should have maybe been better at planning for it, I think it hit us a little bit more than we thought it would. The thing I think about is more like where the sources of signups are coming from. And I think there's 2 points. One that the team brought up, but one that I always look for is like how many of these are organic web? Even though this looks like a dip, we're at a really high spot in terms of organic web, which is great because those are free effectively. And the other thing is like we stopped doing a campaign. I won't like name the campaign, but we stopped doing a campaign that brought us about 50 signups a week, but all 50 of those signups a week were unable to convert to paid for like a year.
I see it more as it was an experiment that we tried. We tried to get a lot of new signups, which did work. We did boost our top line numbers, but they just weren't the right people coming through our funnel. So now we know what not to do. So next time, we don't do this. We do something different.
Would you do it again?
Now that I know what to expect, I think I would.
I would too.
Because the top line number was beautiful. Now I know they're mostly free users, so let's just optimize for the really top of funnel, like the awareness stage. Get them to see what the problem is before we dive in deeper.
Final week of trial. These are effectively signups. These are folks that should be able to convert to a pro account, so free to paid. And again, like there was a lot of people in these metrics historically. You can kind of see how they were up a little bit prior. Are those AppSumos not necessarily people that are converting or convertible at all? I think the big story here is we were concerned last week about our new payment modal. We were concerned that, hey, maybe we rolled something out and it broke a key part of our funnel. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden everything bounced back, right? Like everything kind of more or less came back to normal. I think we still have like a ways to go and to get to where we want, but more or less things kind of came back to normal.
I do think you're right. There's definitely room for improvement on the payment modal. Once we launched it 2 years ago, we did 4 edits to make it better and more impactful for the end user. I think we need to do that again. It's just a matter of timing. I think right now is probably a good time to do it before we hit September this year, when we're about to do our next massive push for top-line customers.
Wehowever, one thing I'm proud about, we'll look at the metrics in a second, but one thing I am feeling pretty confident about is like when you look at the plans, you know, we'll probably hit MRR, which feels good. I don't think we're going to hit active customers, which doesn't feel so great. New and active, I don't think we're going to necessarily, I mean, we could. We really could hit some of these numbers. I think we're going to miss this number by a lot.
So active customers, yeah, I don't think we're going to hit the number we're trying to hit.
But we're going to surpass that.
With active users.
Which is crazy. I mean, that's a good chart, I think. I mean, it's going to come back. It's going to come back too, but that curve was great.
Cool. That wraps up our Monday metrics. What's next?
So I saw a couple tweets. You've been on fire on Twitter lately. Drop
fire.
Yeah.
You mean the 2 tweets that I posted last week?
Yeah.
Fire.
I've been significantly... The pendulum has swung from LinkedIn to Twitter this week.
That's true. Yes.
Why the swing? Why the swing of...
I had nothing of real value to add, so I thought I would add it on Twitter.
I'm going to ask you a question about something, by the way, which has 11 favorites.
On my tweet?
Yeah, you have
No way.
You have 11 likes.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know that.
On your tweet.
What?
Yeah.
I got a reshare? It's probably you.
Yeah, the reshare is me.
Okay. My only friend.
So this tweet, according to you, has no value.
Can't say
11
this
people
way.
disagree with you. One of them is me. So
Okay.
10 people disagree with you.
10 people disagree with me. Okay.
And I'm going to show you the value because I think it is valuable. But let me just read it. And then I'm going to ask you what you meant. So having strong engineering leaders who know what needs to get done is so freeing as a CTO. Don't settle. Hire for values. Feel like me. Shout out to Defraz and Jay for being great engineering leaders at Soapbox HQ. So first of all, that's just like
Beautiful.
some confetti for our guys. What were you trying to accomplish with this tweet? What were you trying to share?
The reason I posted this tweet, I was coming out of a meeting with my engineering leaders, and just the way they were talking and about the product and about the integration with product and engineering, and the way they were talking about how they wanted to connect their own engineers to what Soapbox was trying to achieve as a business. It was just everything we'd ever wanted and hoped and dreamed as business leaders. And then make sure you bring the right people in. I think that's also incredibly important. And we've done that real well at Soapbox. And actually, it's been hard. There's been moments where I want to bring in people because they're technically proficient or they have good clout in the world, but they're just not the right culture fit for Soapbox. And I think there's such a fine-tuned balance there.
So, like the same questions you would ask your team, how do you get them to ask you or their team, right? Like, you don't want to be in a situation as a leader or a manager where you notice something is bad and then you ask a team member, like, why is that bad? You want them to notice that it's bad and them to ask themselves or their team, why is it bad? And then next time you talk to them, they say, hey, you probably saw that thing. It was bad. If you didn't see it, here's what it was. And by the way, this is why, and here's what we're going to do about it. I mean, that's the dream. The other side of the dream is like, even if you don't have that like type A, forward-looking, thinking person on your team, you know, acting as though they're model citizens of the company.
Yeah, they're embodying all of the characteristics I want them to embody as a soapboxer. And I think you're right. That probably does start with how we've run the company and how we bring people into the team and how we set our goals and keep them accountable. I think that's really, I've given the engineering leaders goals to hit. And they're not just engineering, build this thing by this date. It's more about you have these humans, like make sure they're aligned to the vision. They know what's expected of them. And then when I'm fly on the wall in certain rooms, if I see something that I don't like, then I will in private have that conversation as to, hey, here's how you could have handled that better, or you could have talked about why the customer matters, or you had a reaction that I don't think you should have had because it doesn't convey the right emotion to our engineer. It tells them that you're not happy with this, even though you probably should be happy because it's a cool customer.
Yeah, I think it's the context. I mean, we like that word. The show's called Metacontext. Like, the more context you can share, the easier it is to become aligned on certain decisions. So would you classify that as sometimes feeling like an unproductive activity for you to invest time in, or no?
Well, you already know that because I complain to you all the time about that. Here's where I have issues with my own management, is because that is an investment of my time in the right way. Like, that's what I should be doing as the leader of product and engineering at Soapbox. But I value my worth in what I contribute to the code bases. So that's just my own issues. So yes, I don't see that as value add because I'm like, oh, why do I have to do this? I'd rather just write code and build this system out. But this is the stuff that scales, and it's the stuff that I should be more proud of, is building these great humans.
So anyways, okay, cool. You passed the test. You wrote a tweet. It got 11 likes. People liked it. I'm not going to see who's like it. Yeah, that's for sure a record. You crushed it. Less notifications than LinkedIn, so you don't feel like you have 11 likes, but you do.
I guess good news for me is that I have more likes on my tweet than the tweet I'm going to talk about with you.
What?
I know, yeah.
Is that true?
11. Yep, you have 9 on yours. So it sounds like I'm more popular than you on Twitter.
Yeah, you are, man, for sure.
Everyone knows how to welcome a new person to a team when you're in an office. We know a good job from a bad job. Very few know how to do this remotely, but I'll tell you one thing. In both cases, good culture makes it everyone's responsibility.
Well, I think everyone has onboarded someone to a room before. I don't mean that in like an office setting. I mean that like from whenever you go to school. So you always have those experiences where like there's a new kid to town, or you're the new kid to town, or someone's changed home rooms and you got a new teacher or whatever. You know, meeting a new friend or like your group of friends, you know, is introducing his girlfriend or whatever to the group. And so
it's a human experience that's been shared across every community.
Everything, right? And so this person shows up to the physical space and you smile at them, you wave at them, you're inviting, right? You're pulling them in versus like kind of shunning.
It's very physical.
Pull them in, You look at them in the eyes, you smile, you make them feel welcomed, you ask them questions, you're curious about them. How do you pronounce your name? What do you say? Like, oh, this person said good things about you and blah, blah, blah. I'm so excited to meet and talk and blah. And those people feel like drawn in. They feel welcomed. They feel all those feelings that I think are good, right? That's this family environment where it's psychologically safe and everyone, you're all there to support each other. You're all friends. You're all friendly, right? Now we're remote. So, like, what is Cheers but remotely? And I think when you think about what are some of these online communities that do a really good job of it, right? Like, how do they do it? And if you look at any social network, you look at, and some of these apps, you look at open source communities, you look at, right? Like the ones that really take off, it's not when the app is doing that. It's not when the leader is doing that. I mean, that certainly helps. But it's when the community kind of takes it in and of itself to say, hey, you're joining us and we want you. Let me help you onboard because like I'm glad that you're here. And all of a sudden those people feel like, hey, this can be part of my identity almost, right?
Connected to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's apps I think that do a really good job of it. Like Clubhouse is like, hey, this one of your friends just joined, like walk them in, listen to their first thing, whatever. They've joined like the first audio thing or whatever. I think the more you can make it a social interaction, the better. So I have been anyways, like harping on people to overinvest in the same way that you would, like if someone walks by your desk and they're a new person, you would stand up, you'd shake their hand, right?
You would recognize them. Yeah, you would engage with them,
acknowledge their presence, right?
Yeah. So do that
in
online.
remote by default everyone is like slouched with their hoodies up, covering their eyes. Some random person walks in and it's like you have to go out of your way to do what you would do naturally.
It's a little green light pops up beside their name. That's the only indication that they're online and they're there to engage.
Person join the channel. I don't think it's complicated. I think a lot of people are like, well, how do you onboard people remotely? And I think the answer is you have everyone try really hard. I think that's basically the answer.
Yep.
The hard part about it is like, how do you get everyone on your team to try really, really hard at something they don't have to try at?
Yeah. And I would say we did such a good job in the actual physical office because we built that habit up and we then ran that habit for 9-10 years. So now we just have to flex that arm. We got to rebuild that habit on a virtual world. And so it does take effort now, but it will become like easy to do very soon as we go through the motions a few times.
Yeah. It's habits, it's practice, it's all those things until it becomes subconscious and then it becomes part of your culture. So, all right. So that was Explain the Tweet, where I get Graham to tweet once a day his top key learning of the day, so that we can all kind of download from his brain. I do the same thing. Follow him on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, and engage with us. Maybe make the show. I don't know. Maybe this is a thing that happens. People can actually go on the show.
Ask us questions, and we'll respond to them live on air. Let's do it.
Maybe we could do it. But moving on, we're going to go into our top highlight of last sprint. We operate on 2-week sprints. So every other episode, we're going to talk about some of our highlights from our last sprint. What did we ship to customers? What did we launch? What went out the door that might be relevant to either you in terms of something that's helpful, or you in terms of I'm a user, I'm a customer, I really want this feature. So with all of that said, Graham, what's your ESPN top highlight of the week, of the sprint that came out?
Yeah, so always working on some amazing features and great improvements on the platform. My main highlight is for a feature that we launched not long ago. I think we launched it back in Q4 last year. We launched goals, just a way to go through a list of really high quality goal templates and nice OKRs and with good key performance indicators there that you can pull into your own agenda and have goals on the agenda.
Get 1,000 subscribers to your podcast. Is that a decent goal?
That's a pretty good goal.
Is that easy to do?
1,000's good, yeah. Key markers of success. And it's just a quick little sentence with a checkbox beside. And that was your indicator that, yes, you've achieved the goal. What we've done now, we've added the ability to add metrics on top of those milestones. So instead of it just being a quick checkbox, you can now add a numeric goal or a percentage-based goal or a financial goal. So this should help any kind of business department, like a sales, success, engineering. Any department should be able to use this key metric section to better track the progress towards their goals. So when you go into a meeting, you have your goals on the agenda, and now you have your performance towards those goals as well. So now you can have the conversation as to, like, hey, you only have 50 subscribers on your channel. What are we doing to promote this on different networks? How do we improve this week over week? So this is my favorite feature that we've added in the past sprint.
Yeah, man, I got to agree. Are you going to subscribe to this, by the way?
I will subscribe to this 100%.
I think we can count that as 2. That's a win. Guess we're gonna update the team on this all the time. Yeah, I think that's the same thing for me, man. I think goals metrics is a big one for us. It's not something that we thought we needed initially for launch, but something our customers said, hey, we care about the exact ending, dollar value, not just the milestone. So, kind of came out of customer feedback for us. Otherwise, I think goals in general is just one of my favorite avenues, right? Like we've got a couple things that I think are super unique. We have show goals on the agenda, which, when you add a goal, it pops at the top of the agenda. So I guess if we keep this, we're going to have to update everyone on our... And then we have the largest library of goal and OKR examples on the entire internet built into our app. So with those 2 things, there's kind of no excuse for bridging the gap between what should our goals be and, the obsessively managing towards them every single week. The other one I'm really excited about, or I think is really interesting, is something that's super subtle. One of those things is just like a little onboarding card that happens around this finish meeting stage, that has a little animation that tells you what this button does. I think something that we've always wanted to get to is just a little bit more polish around some of our core experiences, and there's nothing more core than saving and sending those notes to everyone who's participated. And then some additional settings, like some of these, are sitting in our settings area, but they're so relevant to this particular button that we can kind of pull them forward a little bit and let you tweak and change. So, anytime we zoom in on something that's part of the core experience and improve that, I think that helps so many of our numbers. So,
but there is also an onboarding to what finish meeting is the first time you click it. I think that was a super cool feature that the team added the last sprint, and I know it was one of Adam's. He was pushing real hard for it.
It was slamming the table for a while.
He was really wanted that feature out. I think that was such a cool ad because it does tell you what that button does in a very subtle way, and then lets you now efficiently just do it.
We had a bucket list of things that we wanted to do when founding company number 2 that we always said we would do, and one of those things was applying to this program called Y Combinator. Stars aligned a little bit, and the application deadline was within a week of our round closing. So we said, let's do it.
It's the right time. Let's get it done.
It's the right time. It's now or never. So we did it. And that was it. We submitted it, and we didn't hear anything for a long period of time. And then Saturday or Sunday or whatever, we get an email that says, hey, you've been invited in for an interview. The other thing is there's, I think we said 16 to 17,000 applicants. There's 16 to 17,000 startups that apply. Only about 300 make it in.
Odds are not in our favor.
Odds are not in our favor. We think this is kind of like a 1 in 10 odds of getting invited to the interview. So
it's already a win to just to get to the interview stage. So.
Yeah. We made it through round 1, and we got to prep for tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to have a 10-minute interview. If it goes well, it's going to be fast. It's going to be weird.
They'll let us know this week. That's crazy.
They're going to let us know this week.
After a 10-minute interview? That's wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be intense. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie.
I'm pretty
watching
nervous,
some of the people's on stage mock interviews. What I've told the team is just there are deadlines for our project, and they're all based on the milestones of this application and then this demo day process. And they become real. They become incredibly important. So then this podcast will get a little more intense over the next few months.
I know. It's actually crazy. If it happens, it would be a pretty cool little podcast, I think, of people going through real shit. So that all out of the way, let's wrap it up.
This has been episode 2 of Metacontext. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Consider subscribing to our channel for all of our next informations.
There's a comment section down below. Go in there. Graham and I are spending a lot of time trying to figure out how we can make the show better. So take feedback very seriously. Get in there. Tell us what to do differently. And we'll see you on episode 3. Thanks, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.